Hi, I'm Justin Janetzko. I'm a former educator and chaplain for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and now mostly interested in aspects of humanism.
Hi, I'm Kris. I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist community and enjoy challenging myself and growing through conversations.
Welcome to the Talus Slopes podcast.
If you're questioning the legitimacy of your Christian experience, you're not alone. We've been there too.
That's why we're here. We're going to call out and condemn the toxic behavior and senseless narratives perpetuated by Christians, and we'll provide credible counterpoints and bring the receipts.
Join us as we confront and weigh in on some of the craziest things Christians think, say, and do that often go unchecked.
Here on the Talus Slopes podcast. What? Hello? Who is that?
Who's there?
It's me, Ted Wilson. I heard y'all been talking about my video in there.
Oh, shoot, Kris, Ted Wilson is here. Well, he's absolutely right. We have been talking about his video, haven't we?
Yes.
Thanks, Kris.
You're welcome.
Good work on that podcasting there. Yes, welcome back, my friends. We are trying to wrap up this Ted Wilson video in the next few episodes. I don't know. We're going to see how it all plays out, but
we're trying our best. It's hard.
We're about done with this. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Actually, I don't mind talking about it, but I feel like it's gone a little long. And we're trying to wrap up season 1 of the Talus Slopes podcast. Wouldn't y'all just like a break?
I would like a break to sleep.
You're pretty tired, aren't you?
I need naps.
You need naps? Right.
I love
naps on the
way, best
then.
thing about being in Spain was that I could take siestas. Like there was literally they had at least an hour where all the shops would close down and like everyone would go home to their families. We'd be done with school and we could just nap for like an hour. It was beautiful.
It's pretty great.
I need that in my daily life. Where is siesta?
Yeah. I've been to Spain, but the S is silent.
Oh, same.
Anyways.
You've been in Spin? In Spin. Have you not seen that meme? Oh, no. It's hilarious. Where someone's like,
Christian,
I've been in Spain without the S. Wait. Hold on. Spain.
But the S is silent.
No, they say without the A. And they're like,
what?
You've been in Spin? I'm spinning like a ballerina. I got to show you that. It's terrific. Hilarious.
Yeah, you're going to have to. Do you all out there know about that? I sure don't.
I hope you all do. It's great.
Oh, my goodness. I guess you can Google it or whatever. Okay, so let's get back to Ted Wilson's video called Taking a Bold Stand on Human Sexuality. It is a special, the most, as my friend Gordon Ramsey would say, the most amazing.
You friends with Gordon Ramsey?
Yeah, of course. From Pastor Ted Wilson. Actually, you know what? Here is my claim to fame.
Okay, I'm excited. Let's go.
Back when I used to play with this band, and we had a 15-passenger Dodge Ram wagon.
Ram wagon. I love
and
that.
We used to tour in. And we named it Gordon Ramsey. Because at the time, we were obsessed with all of his shows, because he had like 20 shows, and we watched all of them. Anyways, we named it Gordon Ramsey. And then one of our friends had photoshopped Gordon Ramsay's face on the van.
Oh, wow.
And our lead singer posted it on Twitter and tagged Gordon Ramsay. And Gordon Ramsay replied from his official account. I can't remember what he said. I think he's just said nice !
I love that.
And we were like, Gordon acknowledged us.
We're so cool.
Please call us a donkey. Please, Gordon, please. We can take it. Yeah, anyways. No, that's not what we're talking about here. But yeah, this video, again, the link is going to be in the show notes. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. Or you can just follow along with us because we're playing it and then stopping it and discussing it at point by point by point by point.
Etc.
Etc. And we're just going to pick up where we left off last time.
You see, friends, God longs for everyone to enjoy an abundant life here and now, as well as in eternity. Aberrations in human sexuality, fornication, adultery, homosexuality, licentiousness, bestiality, and other unbiblical sexual activities are not acceptable to God because they shatter the life he longs to give us, bringing sin and sorrow in their wake.
As we just heard, Ted Wilson has basically just rattled off a whole list of sexual things that he believes the Bible is calling out as being sinful.
Yes. That will bring sorrow and sin in their wake.
Let's actually go back and let's check his work, Kris, because
It sounds a little sketchy.
I'm just kind of curious about some of these words he uses.
Aberrations in human sexuality, fornication, adultery.
Okay, let's pause it there. Okay, so we've already talked about fornication and adultery in our last episode. If you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to that, and we will have then and there explained what fornication and adultery actually is. Wilson is using it in a very modern sense. We addressed it in the ancient sense.
Yes.
As far as adultery and fornication are concerned, fornication is that word that is in the Greek. It's from the root porne, and it could be translated to sexual immorality. It's very vague. It's very general, but in the ancient time, it really is talking about something specific, and that is the selling of the body in a literal way, which would have been very oppressive back then. So you have two words here in which there are victims, right? Adultery has a victim, and fornication, as it would have been seen in the ancient terms,
has a victim.
They're essentially like sex slaves.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good at all.
Homosexuality.
Homosexuality. Kris, what do you say about conservatives that use the term homosexuality?
They have one context that they believe that word is in, and it's never in good faith. So I'm always wary of it when it's used.
What's the word that he uses? Aberration?
Aberration. Licentiousness.
Is homosexuality... Not yet, Kris.
Sorry, I was ready.
You be ready. Is homosexuality an aberration?
Is homosexuality bad? No. I mean, it can be.
It can be.
Everything can be bad, like if you don't use it in the right way.
But remember, where is he getting that idea from?
That's a great question.
Do we know?
No, not. I mean,
he really hasn't said anything about it yet.
He hasn't said anything about it yet.
Other than his whole, it's Adam and Eve.
Not Adam and Steve.
I mean, which he doesn't say that, but that's what he's trying to say.
Yeah,
which I don't think is we've already discussed that, so we don't need to go back into it. But yeah. So again, if I have to guess, he is ripping from... ripping that Bible, bro.
Stop.
He's trying to pull from the Bible, and again,
as one does,
as one, if you are a pastor particularly, does. And again, we've already in Talus Slopes have looked at a lot of these texts that supposedly talk about how evil and wicked same-sex relationships are, and I just think
the evidence isn't really there.
I just think it's kind of
lacking.
Well, I just think it's kind of crazy that, he acknowledges with adultery and fornication. I'm assuming that when he's saying those things, he is thinking about heterosexual relationships. A man cheating on his wife, a woman having premarital sex.
It always bothered me that in this context, like when these lists are given, that in a straight relationship, there were conditions where things were wrong, but being gay, that's just all wrong.
Yes, and that is what I think he is trying to say here.
Yes.
He's not trying to say that there's some same-sex that's good and wonderful, but there's some that's bad. No,
he's just like, no,
he's
it's
not
all
making
bad.
that distinction. And I'm assuming that based on everything else that he's going to say and everything that he has said. Again, he has not been very clear at all. You mentioned this, I think, the last episode that we talked about Ted Wilson, that you were just like, I just wish he would come out and say it right at the beginning.
Yes.
Which he doesn't. He just disguises
be honest,
it and
please.
Well, if we go to this Bible verse and that Bible verse, you'll see things that I'm just kind of making fit because they're like we're saying, and we've been saying this whole time.
Well,
there is no actual strong
Right.
I would even say there's no evidence at all for a loving.
There isn't at all.
For the Bible to be against any loving relationship.
Because it really would not have existed in that time.
Okay, so again, it seems like he's very much trying to say that being gay is bad here.
Shocker.
I know. Not surprised.
Licentiousness.
Oh, okay. So
There's that word. Yay.
Next one is licentious. Now you can go, Kris. Full disclosure, when Kris and I were preparing for this podcast today, we were going through that line, and I was like, I know I've heard of licentiousness before, but that is not a word that I use very often. It's obviously bad.
Yeah. I mean, you can
Because
kind
the
of get that
context here,
without
yeah.
even knowing what the word means. You just know it's supposed to be bad.
But
I was like, what does this actually mean?
we had to look it up just for a little clarity here. So, yeah. What does it mean, Kris?
Well, the Cambridge English Dictionary says that licentiousness is behavior that is sexual in a way that is uncontrolled and socially unacceptable. Following up with the dictionary.com definition,
Nice.
throwing off of sexual restraint or lewd character or behavior.
Yeah, like all of that sounds like it could be bad.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. If you're not presenting yourself in a way that's acceptable, especially given people that don't know why you're acting that way,
Yeah.
that's not good.
And generally speaking, if society is recoiling at your behavior,
Something's probably wrong.
you're probably being a jerk or being
really inappropriate.
really inappropriate, exactly, or just evil. I don't know. But I agree with him on that. I think that's a bad thing.
I don't think that sounds good.
Yeah. I guess so far I agree with him. I think that the quote unquote homosexuality thing, that depends on.
It can be bad. I will fully
yeah.
acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Any kind of thing can be bad.
Yeah, and I think the way that the Bible presents it, it's always bad.
Yeah, because it's not about love. It's about other things.
And the context always is showing us that. All right, let's keep it going.
Bestiality.
Okay, hold on.
Bestiality. I'm sorry, that gets me every time.
No, is it us? I've always pronounced it beastiality.
I have always heard bestiality.
Are we
There's
wrong?
an A there. He's ignoring the A. He's saying bestiality.
Hold on.
Beast.
We're gonna put a pin in this. I'm gonna double check this because
I know it's bestiality.
No, I have to know. Okay. So I looked it up. It is. Well, you can really say it either way. It's kind of like bestiality or beastiality, but also people are saying it bestiality and beastiality. I don't know. It's all over the place. But here at Merriam-Webster.com, you can say it either bestiality or bestiality. And it says it's a sexual relations between a human being and a lower animal. So there's a power dynamic there, obviously. I mean, that's one of the issues that makes bestiality, however you want to say it, makes it not at all the same as being gay and having love towards another person, where the dynamics are equal and the consent is there. It continues on. It's the condition or status of a lower animal. So, there again, continues display or gratification of bestial traits or impulses. Okay, that's not really what we're talking about. So interesting. So Wilson is not wrong or right or whatever. He's just saying it like kind of in a fancy way. What do you think about bestiality, Kris? Good, bad, in between?
Strange. First of all,
Strange.
why? Well, okay. That's
Dr.
like my
Strange.
initial reaction. I feel like anytime it's talked about, I'm like, why is that what you're considering? Do you like Black Mirror? Have you watched Black Mirror?
Okay, Black Mirror is disturbing because it's all stuff that could happen. And
yes.
It's like, I like it, but I hate it too because
I think it's so interesting.
when I watch, I'm just like, it's over.
I love
Everything
thinking
is
about
over.
those kind of, I love things that make you think really hard about oh, this could happen.
It's terrifying.
Why? The psychology behind it. Very interesting.
It's super well
But
done.
anyway, there's a reason I
give
brought
that.
it up. The first episode, everyone I know that has watched Black Mirror or is going to watch Black Mirror is always warned, don't watch the first episode.
Oh, Lord
you
have
know
mercy.
why? because there's bestiality in it.
Oh.
And everyone knows it's gross and revolting. And like, that's literally the point of that episode. But I think of it sometimes, like in this context, and I'm like, it's literally used only to show how extreme and terrible it would be. So of course no one thinks it's like a good thing, at least in the general population.
I mean, you and I have both heard conservative Christians compare being gay to bestiality.
I've heard that endless amounts of times. Like people be like, "Oh, where's the line? You're gay." Next thing you know, we'll have people using bestiality. I'm like, bro, what?
I don't know why they say that.
It's in my mind, it's used in a way to make being gay more scary.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
And
if people are gay and we're okay with people being gay, then what's next? We're going to have people practicing bestiality every day, everywhere we see, and it's going to be a problem.
Yes, want to marry a fish.
But like,
fish wedding.
Those are such different things, and they have no connection.
But these conservatives would say, but they're not different things. They're aberrations. That's the point that Wilson is trying to make. And I think that I think if somebody is struggling with like differentiating between those two things, let's first of all just talk about
why.
I guess evolutionarily speaking, a human is an animal, but we are of a completely different species.
My whole thing is like, sorry, let me not interrupt you. You go ahead.
No, I'm good. Go.
I was just going to say, at least I hope this is the case. Everyone should know that consent is important. Mm-hmm. Can an animal consent? No.
Some people think so.
But can they physically say yes?
Well, real quick, those people that say that I don't take seriously.
Exactly,
at all,
that's what I'm saying. Like
they're trying to make the point that bestiality is equivalent to being gay.
No.
And so therefore I'm already just like very dismissive of their thinking, period. Because I mean, you just mentioned consent, and I've heard people saying, well, the animal consented because it participated. It's like,
that doesn't mean consent. You can participate without consent.
Well, that's true too, but there is also like instinct. Animals, I was just listening to something the other day where they were talking about the prefrontal cortex, and something that animals lack is the ability to make decisions in the sense that we as human beings can, that we can think about the future and make a decision based on that. An animal cannot do that. An animal lives in the moment and acts upon
because that's
instinct.
how they have to.
We as human beings also have instinct, but we have a feature that goes beyond just instinct, in that, again, we can think about what could happen,
right, and
then make decisions based on that. An animal cannot do that.
In my mind,
from what I understand, help me if I'm wrong, but that
sounds logical to me. In my mind, the closest thing you could relate it to, if you're going to relate animals having sex with humans, would be like an adult. This sounds terrible, but honestly, pedophilia is the closest I can get to, because, a child, if they're even, by the same logic, engaging in something, because their instinct is telling them to do so, kids don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know.
Yeah.
And later they find it out, and it's very traumatizing. Mm-hmm. So, like, if anything, I feel like that would be the closest, because animals don't, like, they don't have that logic behind them that's saying, I want to do this. This is a good thing. I'm doing this because of such and such and such.
Yeah, I don't really want to spend any more time on this, because I just think that that's a ridiculous argument.
It is.
And I think that people that are pinned in a corner only make that argument.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Because it is just, I mean, obviously, even on its face, it's not the same thing at all.
It's just dumb. It's a dumb argument.
And I think that
I'm sorry.
I think that you're right, that people make it just because they've got nothing else to say.
The slippery slope.
And yes, and they just want to point out how they feel, being gay, how extreme that is to them. And so then they go to the thing that is like one of the most extreme things in humanity. As you pointed out with the Black Mirror episode, which, again, I've not seen that episode.
I would not recommend it. Please don't watch it. It's rather disturbing.
I think it would say a lot about me if right after this I went and watched it. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not interested in that at all.
I was not warned before I watched Black Mirror, and I watched it and I was mortified.
Okay. Let's get back to Ted.
Let's have our TED Talk.
TED Talk. Let's go.
and other unbiblical sexual activities are not acceptable to God because they shatter the life he longs to give us.
That's so dramatic.
Well,
Sorry.
other unbiblical sexual, what do you say, activities?
Acts.
Acts.
Why did you say it like that?
I choked on my spittle. I don't know, man. Like, it's so vague. And this is one of the things I'm so tired of all people, but specifically Christians, that are really trying to demonize something. I shouldn't say that. In this case, I think it is true. But are really trying to speak.
It's like the nothing burger that you talk about. You know, you say words that give the idea that there's a huge list of things that are wrong, even though that list is never provided.
Right.
You have it in the back of your brain that there is a big list of things that are not okay.
Yeah, it's almost like he's thrown out there like, you all figure it out. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And he kind of washes his hands of it because, again, the point is to demonize the gay community.
Yup.
It's not to have a nuanced conversation about human sexuality. He is trying to denounce a movement that is, I think, the minority, outwardly the minority. I think that there's probably more people in, specifically here, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and probably within all of Christianity, they're just like, yeah, I don't really know why it's a bad thing to be gay other than Pastor so-and-so says so. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Just from conversations that I've had. I could be completely wrong on that. But even so, this is why we are having this conversation right now, is because those people are closeted to a degree, not in their sexuality, but in their willingness to come out and say, yeah, I don't really think that there's anything wrong with it. I don't think that the Bible is saying that, or even if it is, like, there's a lot of stuff in the Bible that we don't take seriously today. But Pastor Ted Wilson says it, and I trust him because he's the pastor of my church, or pastor, whoever your pastor is at your church, says it, and I trust them because they have spiritual authority and they're God's chosen, and da-da-da-da-da. So I guess maybe, if nothing else, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and toe the line. And I think that is most people, even if they are questioning this.
Yeah, but that's still problematic.
It is, because things like this keep those people in their place, really, is what it ends up being to me. All right, let's keep it going, though. Anything else you want to say on that?
No, I'll leave it there. That's all good points. Those are all good points.
Zip-a-zoo!
Bringing sin and sorrow in their wake.
Okay, so if you do these things, you will have sin and sorrow. Can you have sin? You will be committing sin, I guess, is what he's trying to say.
Yeah, I was like, can you have sin? I don't know.
Chris, do you know what sin is?
By his definition?
No. What is sin? Like, for real, for real?
Sin is doing something that hurts someone else.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
think that's a pretty good definition.
Well, everybody has their own definition.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's the thing, is it's so loose.
And it really wouldn't matter what the Bible says. And as far as I'm concerned, like, as I have studied the Bible and the different usages of the word sin, there's like, this idea, I think one of the Hebrew words is chata, and it talks about missing the mark, and even to the degree that who's the tribe that's really good with the slingshots?
What?
There's a tribe of Israel that is shouted out for being really good with the slingshot.
Isn't that the same one that David was from?
I don't know. I think it's the Benjamites.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
I don't know if that's right or not. This is just kind of on the spur. I didn't prepare to even say anything about this, but that's like what it. There's this whole thing like they could not chata, right? So they would not ever miss their target, and that to me is like probably the most accurate definition of sin possible, because but then it's also open to interpretation, right? Because then the question is, well, it's really like missing the mark, right? So what is the mark? What is it that we as human beings are trying to do? And the Bible is kind of all over the place on that. It leaves it up to you to decide, or your pastor in this case, to decide, well, what is the mark? But Chris, if you were to answer that question, what is the mark, or what is it? What is our goal as followers of Jesus? What would it be?
Realistically, or
No.
ideally?
Ideally, what is it? Because that's what we're talking about. The truth. Well,
we're trying.
No, we're talking about reality here, and what I would say is the truth.
I would say the ideal situation as Jesus followers would be to love others the way Jesus did, and to show by both action and just words other people how. Let me start over. I lost my place.
Rewind.
Woo, rewind.
Big rewind.
Wow. Okay. Anyways, now I'm completely off track. Thanks for that.
It is
what was the question?
Love. I think the answer is love. Let's just cut to the chase.
Yes.
No, that is it. I don't think that should be up for debate. There's a lot of different ways that you can interpret the messages of the quote unquote scripture that has been consolidated into the Bible. But if you're a Christian, you cannot use that book to do anything else but to love people. That's it. And so for me, to miss the mark is to not love somebody else. In everything it is that you are saying and doing. For me personally, this video that we're watching misses the mark. And by that definition, well, yeah, that is true. But even the lack of nuance, even the fact that they are creating propaganda, lacks love. It is sinful because it's not in good faith.
Yeah,
it just isn't. Like if this is what he really believes, I don't know if he really believes it or not. Then you need to definitely do a better job in creating a resource for your congregations. But even then, I just think it lacks love, and therefore it is sinful. It misses the mark.
Yeah.
But, obviously he's going to argue with me on that, and obviously there are a ton of Christians that would argue with me and do argue with me about them. But no, you're sinful because you're condoning something that the Bible says is sinful.
Well, and ultimately, like I said a little bit earlier, sin really is something that results in pain for someone else most of the time, or yourself. And that could also follow what you just said, because this results in pain of individuals who are just trying to love people, or just trying to live life. And this is like, no, you're evil.
Yeah.
Surprise.
And I think that at this point in the conversation, there is what generally comes up is sin against God and sin against man, that those are actually two different things. I think that Jesus is actually trying to blend those two things together and say sinning against man is sin against God, and the other way around. Like, you cannot disconnect those two things. And I think that is true, because what Ted Wilson is going to say is, if you are gay, you are not sinning necessarily against another human being as much as you are sinning against God himself.
But I feel like they would say you're sinning against other human beings too.
I think they would make that case, but the problem, I just think that's secondary to the sin against God, because up to this point, he has been saying that, like, God created man and woman to be in a sexual relationship. That is not necessarily, again, to me, when I hear this, that's not necessarily saying that, well, if Adam found a man and they were both cool with it, that God would be cool with it. I think that he's really trying to drive home the idea that, no, this is something that God disapproves of.
God hates
and
this.
So if you are disobeying God, then that is sinning against God.
Okay. I guess so.
That's kind of my take on it. But is it possible to sin against God? Is it only possible to sin against God and then not ever sin against a human being at the same time? Is there any sin that a person can commit that is only a sin against God himself?
Worshiping a God different than the actual God, I suppose.
But even that, to me, has human casualties in it, because if you look at idolatry and how it's presented in Scripture, it's not that, like, when you worship another god, you become better people. It's always the opposite of that.
I see. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, go ahead and read through the prophets, particularly, and they're just like, when you go to these other gods, there are human casualties attached to that worship. That's how it always is. And you could even say, to an extent, that there are human casualties in worshiping Yahweh in some cases, I think.
Ooh. Yep.
I mean, just read some of these laws where the punishment is death, and you're like, well, that seems a little extreme. He pick up sticks on the Sabbath. Do we have to kill him?
For real.
So I don't know. I don't want to necessarily take it to that degree, but I think that you could make that argument. It's complicated, and it all comes back to your interpretation of it. But I think if you are a Christian, you are following Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ's interpretation of the law.
Yes.
Which we've already discussed is somewhat dissimilar from how, I don't know, the ancients that came before Jesus interpreted the law,
true.
which is why he has to.
He was very controversial.
Which is why he has to say, "I am coming to give you a new interpretation of the law."
Yeah.
And I think that Jesus is correct in that, because Jesus' interpretation comes back to just love, and again, not lust, which is what the Bible continually shouts out as being incorrect and bad. Can you shout somebody out for being bad? I guess the shout out.
I mean,
is
that
a
kind of
positive
feels
thing.
like what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
you know.
You can call out. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Calling out this as being a bad thing. Yes, this is why in all of these texts, they're surrounded by the ideas of lust, of fake love, something that could have the appearance of love, sexually speaking particularly,
Yeah.
but ain't that. And I would even say in with the ancients, you know, there are people that probably have loving feelings and maybe do have authentic love for the other individual, but sex was perceived less that way than it is today.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that more in subsequent episodes. But I just am really bothered by how flippantly sin is used. It's like, well, when I say sin, you all know what I'm talking about, right? You all know what I'm talking about, right? Do we?
I feel like if you asked a random group of Christians to define sin, even within that random group, there'd be some variations.
Of course there would be.
Because it's so vague.
Even down to, again, well, we already mentioned this, but like, is what you wear sinful? I mean, you know that there are churches out there that say women cannot wear pants.
Yeah.
I actually watched an entire sermon from Pastor Steven Anderson out in Tempe, Arizona. He's got like a graphic organized and everything about why women can't wear pants, and
That's
it's
so ridiculous.
and it's goofy and it's so weird. And for him, he is married and he has daughters, and they are not allowed to wear pants. To him, that's sinful, and I'm just like,
That's crazy.
Why? And when you go through his logic, he makes it kind of make sense to the word of the law, but he misses the spirit of the law, which is very clear if you watch any of his sermons. It's funny, his church is actually like considered a hate group.
Huh?
It's so crazy, but again, I think that if you are calling yourself a Christian, you have got to take the teachings of Jesus seriously. What did Jesus say about human sexuality?
Just love people.
Crickets,
That's literally all. Like, I think it's funny. Like, Christians have this beautiful, not actually beautiful, I'm being sarcastic, have this ability
Zot.
that's not beautiful to redefine words so that they become meaningless.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before when we talked about woke
And canceled.
and canceling.
Which he talks about canceling in this
But
video.
sin is also a very good example of that. It's just, there's so many definitions and it's used in so many different contexts that it almost becomes meaningless because the understanding of it is lost.
Mm-hmm. And I hate it. I just hate it because then, and that's the issue with when words lose their meanings, then they're so easily weaponized.
Exactly.
And that's
very problematic.
That's all there is to it. Did we cover all this? What he talked about sinfulness and sorrow. Okay, so I do think that like the sorrow thing, I feel like what he's trying to say is like, look, if you're gay, you're not only committing sin, but your life will be very sorrowful. And Kris, as someone who is gay, I would like to turn this over to you now to address that claim. Are you sorrowful much in your gay lifestyle?
Well, you know what's funny to me? I am not sorrowful in my quote unquote gay lifestyle. I love my girlfriend. I'm happy. We're very happy. It's very wholesome and cute. The sorrow I believe...
I've seen it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yay.
I've been
We're
there.
Cute. But anyway,
mad cute.
the only sorrow in life that I experience in relation to my gayness, I guess, is from the church. They're the ones that make me sorrowful because
from Pastor Ted Wilson.
Yeah, because it's hateful, and that's the only time I feel sorrow is when people are just adamantly being disrespectful and being hurtful and hateful to people I love and to me for no reason. That's the only sorrow I experience. And so if you want to say that you can be sorrowful when you're gay, yeah, I guess you can. But Christians, a lot of times you're the one who's causing it. That's all I'm saying. If it weren't for that, I would not be sorrowful.
not at all my experience, but makes complete sense to me. And that's based on my own personal third-party observations. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Like if you look at a lot of people who are in queer relationships, they're happy. They're only not happy when people are being jerks to them.
The Bible is explicit about this particular subject. In Romans chapter...
Hey, we're going to get to that next episode, but we'll tease it real quick here before this one's over. Oh, finally, freaking 5 minutes into the video, we're halfway done.
Yay!
The Bible is explicit. Finally, we're going to get to the actual proof. I've been waiting a while, Kris. The other stuff has been all over the place.
For sure.
But he's going to get to his proof. We're going to take that into the next episode. A little teaser there for y'all. I bet y'all can't wait.
So exciting. Woot woot.
Yeah. I'm happy.
And I'm happy.
I'm happy.
Sad. What song is that? I know that song.
Gorillas.
Oh.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah,
Maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. Songs and stuffs. Kris, I'm done with this one for today.
Yeah, me too.
I think we did some good work.
Woot woot.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Does it mean I can go take my siesta?
Yes. Okay. I guess there's nothing left to do but to offer a benediction. Today's benediction. It is so that my transgressions have borne a withered fruit.
Oh, okay.
The sun has scorched the rising plants. Alas, they have no root. The bleached bones of animals bound by leather strips dance through the air with laughter as I wield this wicked whip.
Creepy.
Goulet!